What up, Rival Gang and anybody from the YouTube space seeing this video, welcome to the channel. So this is part 2 of my what if series, to where what if a character joined Marvel Rivals? What would it look like? How would their abilities tie into the game? We just kind of brainstorm and we just have fun with it, right? And that's the overall point, people. This is just to have fun. This is not to be taken too serious. So with that being said, based on the thumbnail or the title, y'all are here for Captain Marvel. So, Captain Marvel, right? Carol Danvers herself, living star protector of the cosmos. So, if it were up to me, I think she would be a Vanguard. I can definitely see if they did want to go the duelist route, and even potentially strategist. If I had to be honest, I would see more so Vanguard, if not strategist, because her as a duelist is kind of... We already feel like there's too many duelists, right? And we could feel this way right now because of what we feel about the lack of Vanguards or the want of Vanguards in the game. Same thing as Cyclops. I said the same thing. Like, we probably want Cyclops to be a Vanguard, at least at this present time, because we don't know what he is, because we just want more Vanguards. But in the reality of it, if we had more Vanguards, then most of us would want Cyclops to be a duelist. So I think y'all get where I'm coming from. But anyway, let's hop into Captain Marvel. So starting off, as far as her stats, as far as the baseline here, we have 700 HP, 95 damage per second, because we don't want her knocking out people like left and right. Like, she's not a duelist, but we do want her to do enough damage to push or hold the line, right? Then we have 400 barrier, which, you know, we can talk about that. And then we have the movement speed, where she's primarily a flying brawler. I think that would be cool. That's kind of how I wanted her to be, or even I think it would be cool for her to be a flying brawler, because we don't have one of those yet, in my opinion, right? To where she can freely, you know, box, fly off, box. Yes, we have Angela, but Angela is kind of like a stabby spear fly off character. You know, it's not really the same. She's really meant to get in there and be able to take off and, you know, do some Dragon Ball Z type stuff to a certain degree as far as flight. But anyway, let's move forward. So here we have her passive Living Star. All right, so Living Star says every hit Carol lands generates binary charge. At max charge, her next ability costs no cooldown. Carol has permanent free flight with no cooldown. She uses it as a weapon, closing distance instantly and repositioning between brawls, immune to knockback while airborne. Now, I would not be mad at this. Obviously, this would probably be expanded on, you know, because you don't want an ability like this as a passive to be too strong. But I do think this would really fit her as far as an entry level idea of, hey, she can fly in there, box it up, like I said, fly out, fly back in, box it up, as I said, depending on what she comes back with, throw some things down on her teammates so that way they can continue to push the fight forward. And, you know, ultimately, like I said, especially as pushing the line or even defending the line, I do think that would be a great passive. So next we have is the left my button, which is the main attack, right? So it says rapid heavy melee combo, a flurry of photon charged fists dealing 95 damage per second at close range. Each hit in the combo builds binary charge. On a full fourth hit combo, the final blow releases a photon shockwave, knocking nearby enemies back 4 meters. Now, I'm not upset at this. This kind of reminds me of Iron Fist as well, to where, again, you're putting down a little CC, you're pushing the enemy back, right? Either you're pushing them back so you can proceed, or you're pushing them back to stop them from walking you down, right? I think this is a great ability to have as a primary, because, you know, in the middle, while all these things are happening, you're not really hitting the whole team, but you are hitting those people that are trying to move you, right? Now, as far as certain tanks, there are some tanks, they're going to be fully immune to this, so it's not going to matter. This is really going to be very hurtful to a lot of healers, of keeping them out of position, you know, when they're already out of position, essentially, and even duelists, right? Keeping them back so that way they're not on your back line and things of that nature, so it can be very anti-dive. I think this would be a very good primary for this character. Now, moving on to her right mouse button. It says raise a forward-facing binary energy wall, 400 HP, blocking all projectiles. Absorbed hits generate binary charge. Shatters on break, releasing a 120 damage burst to nearby enemies, recovering 50 HP per second after a 2-second delay. Again, very great ability. The fact that obviously it blocks projectiles, and then it generates binary charge, so that way, just like the passive, right, we get the cooldown reduction, so that way we can use something else a lot quicker. Which, again, I think it creates that cycle of where the difficulty comes in, how well, like, this would be a very technical character based on what I see. A very technical tank, and I don't think that's a bad thing, because when you can do things like this and you're all over the place, almost like a technical Captain America in a sense, but in a flyer, I guess, build, like I said, I think this would be good, right? Now, do I say it has to be exactly this? No, maybe the numbers can be turned down. Maybe instead of 120, maybe we keep the trend of 95 or 80, because you don't want it to be too powerful, right? Like I said, you don't want her to come off too much as a DPS. You just want her to do just enough to where, you know, it opens up that lane for the DPS to do something, you know, as far as, you know, getting that final hit or whatever the case may be, to again either push or defend the line. So moving forward, we have binary Aegis, which is the E. It says wrap a nearby ally in a binary energy, or in binary energy, granting, or I think I said that wrong. Wrap a nearby ally in binary energy, granting a 250 HP overshield for 3 seconds. Each hit absorbed while the shield is active generates binary charge for Carol. Erupts in a 90 damage radial blast on expiry or destruction, 12-second cooldown. Now, I think this is also a very good ability. I can see this helping a lot of diver characters, and not even just diver characters, like characters that may, again, be out of position and they start to get pushed, right? If you can get this on them in time, obviously, it's almost a jail out of free card, or however the term is, free out of jail free card, where maybe we do need to tone this down. Maybe it shouldn't be 250, maybe we do like 150 or something, right? You know, just enough to where it defends the character for a while to maybe they can get a heal or ultimately escape. But even if it's not meant for escape purposes, the fact that it does damage, right? You know, that could be the difference as well, pushing the line or defending a line, because 90 damage is a good amount, right? Maybe it shouldn't be 90, maybe it should be 50. Again, these are just generated numbers because we got to have some numbers here to just discuss it, right? I mean, most characters, at least as far as the squishies, they typically only have 250 HP. So getting hit by 90, it's not really that bad, but when you consider everything else in the game, you know, it can get pretty crazy. So like I said, you know, numbers like that, we would just have to see how it works. But again, I think abilities like this, as far as being a tank and being able to protect your allies, I mean, great ability, great ability. All right, then we have the mobility. We have Shift Stellar Charge. It says ignite into a supersonic close range dive, slamming into a targeted enemy and dealing 120 burst damage on impact. All enemies within 5 meters of the impact are knocked back. Generates binary charge per enemy hit. 10-second cooldown. Now I really like this ability because it's single target from how they describe it here, and on top of that, it knocks back the rest of the enemy. So it really kind of singles it out. So it allows you to kind of do what you need to do. Maybe if you need to isolate, you know, lethal kills, I mean, it gets no better than this. I mean, this could definitely be a little overpowered. I mean, 120, like I said, for a 250 carat, I mean, that's almost 50% of that HP going just like that, right? So maybe, I don't know, something like that gets, again, keeping the trend toned down to around 80 to 95, because you would hope that, all right, you're creating this space, you're causing this ISO to go on to where maybe your teammates can come in and do what they need to do, it with all their abilities combined, you know, they can get the job done and get this person out of there. But overall, a great ability. I know it says you target an enemy, so you know that's very specific, because that means that you have to target a character. I think it should still personally be free will. If you hit the character, you hit the character. If you don't, you don't. But if you do hit the character, then I think it should be like some sort of auto lock mechanic to where it does maybe who based on who's close to the center point of the ability, they're the ones that, you know, take the overall damage and gets that isolation placed on them. So again, great ability. And also you get the binary charge, which again, that's that rinse and repeat, right? Where you get the binary charge, allows you to get another cooldown on something. Boom, either maybe you can get a double dash or a double like you said, double dive, or you can go into a shield or a photon barrier. I mean, think about that. I know a lot of it may sound OP at first, but y'all know how this game is, man. We see stuff happen left and right and get burnt down left and right. So, you know, maybe it might not be as OP as it sounds. But okay, moving on to the next ability. We have Gravity Anchor for the F. It says slam the ground, detonating a gravitational shockwave that roots all enemies within 8 meters for 2 seconds. Pulls any airborne targets down instantly. Rooted enemies take 20% more damage from Photon Punch for the root duration, 14-second cooldown. Now this is pretty much just as isolated as it gets, because imagine you do Stellar Charge, then you do Gravity Anchor. Brother, you're pretty much done, right? Unless you are getting pocketed in that moment to a certain degree, you are pretty much done. But like I said, with all the abilities coming into the game, or that's in the game, I know this sounds really strong, but there's some counterplay to this. You know, ultimately the enemy would have to play something that could counter a character like this. But just based on what it is, I'm not mad. This is giving true tank energy, true lockdown energy as well to either hold or push the line, as I mentioned. I love things like this. Moving forward, we have C, energy absorption. Enter a 2-second absorption stance. All incoming projectile damage is converted into binary charge instead of HP damage. If the stance reaches full charge, the photon barrier instantly regenerates at full HP, 14-second cooldown. So this helps out the shield a lot. It's kind of like a backup way to, again, hey, maybe I become inactive for 2 seconds, which, you know, that takes you off of the board essentially for 2 seconds, but you're absorbing damage. It's also allowing you to get your shield back a lot quicker to, again, defend your teammates or yourself. Pretty much really nothing else to say about it. You know, great ability. All right, and then we have what most people would want to see, which is the cooldown. And y'all see it has at a cost of 3,200. It says Carol ignites into full binary form for 8 seconds. Photon Barrier doubles to 800 HP and resets instantly. So no matter if you just used it, literally if you ult right after, you get it right back. All abilities refresh with no cooldown. Photon Punch gains 40 per second or burn aura on every hit within 6 meters. All damage absorbed heals Carol at a 1-to-1 ratio. Binary charge builds at 2 times the speed. Hitting max charge mid ult resets all cooldowns again. Each kill extends the duration by 1.5 seconds. Great ability. It literally is pushing the line. So when you need to turn up, when your DPS can't get it done, or if you can, you know, lock in with your DPS and say, hey, you know, let's go in and do this together. I mean, this is a really great ability because the supports on the other end of this, they're going to have to defend against this in some form or fashion because it's going to be too much. I would see this being too much. Your teammates are being shielded. You have the burn DPS aura that's going on at the same time. Carol is pretty much unkillable unless you have what is it? Not lifesteal, y'all, but what's the other one? The anti-heal going on. I mean, like I said, there's some counterplay that can be done here. There's a lot of counterplay that can be done on a character like this. So again, I know it all may seem OP at first, but no, there are definitely ways to counter her. But just for what it is right now, as far as just being able to have a character like this, if we get this in any form or fashion, I wouldn't complain. I wouldn't complain. And then, yes, this is Captain Marvel, but if any other Vanguards came into the game with very similar abilities, I mean, I think this is great for the game. Right? So this is what I mean when I say this is for fun. These are just things, it's conversational pieces to work off of and just talk about. You know, you guys let me know what you think. If, you know, y'all see other characters with maybe abilities like this or who would better fit this kit outside of her, things that you would take and, like I said, add to another character, or what you personally would add to something like this, right? You know, so with that being said, it's always fun to do these. It's just cool to see what comes out of this when these are being made. Because I do have to recreate some of these just to make sure it makes sense and that it's as balanced as I can get it. So with that being said, if y'all like the video, definitely leave a like, comment, subscribe. Again, this is part 2. I don't know who I will do for part 3, but you know, I'm working on it. I got some characters in the works, so we'll see. But with that being said, I appreciate all the love and support as always, and I will see y'all in the next video. Peace.